would you save from a fire? Let's imagine for a second that, heaven forbid, your house is burning down and you only have time to grab one object. What would it be? And why? What is it about that one object that you hold so close to your heart that makes it so important to you? I'm fascinated by the relationships we form with our objects and what this does or doesn't say about us. When I think about it, for me, the things that I hold the most attachments to are the things with the most memories. It's my great-granny's 100-year-old writing album, the picture my boyfriend used a whole blue pencil drawing for me, and the moonstone from my sister that I play with when I'm nervous. When I saw that Brixton was going to be becoming part of London Design Festival this year, I saw this as a chance to explore this a bit further. I know what things I would save from a fire, but how about everyone else? I wanted to create a digital archive documenting what's important to the people of Brixton in 2015, and so the Chronicles of Brixton was born. The way I design is pretty much a mirror image of how I see the world. I'm fascinated by the patterns I see in nature, and how to me this shows that ultimately everything's connected. And I'm interested in the energy that flows between each and every living thing and how that unifies us and brings us together, despite our very many differences. It was this bringing together of people that drew me to Brixton in the first place. I see Brixton as being somewhere that has a strong history of always inviting people from all over the world to come and set up home here. And all of us who have landed here from so many different places have each come with our own unique stories. And I see these stories and these people not as standing alone, but as coming together, layered, one on top of another, to create something quite beautiful. Now, when I first started asking people this question, what one thing would you save from a fire? I had no idea what they were going to say in return. It's not really something you can just guess from looking at somebody. I'd expected to hear some really heartwarming, beautiful stories, and I did. But what I didn't expect were the rabbit holes of discovery that I'd be led down by almost each and every submission. Let's take Amber. Amber came to see me one day with her teddy Gregory. She's had Gregory since she was about 7, after begging her mum to get him for her at a school fair. I asked Amber what makes Gregory so important to her. Well, he's just always been there for me. We've been through a lot, she said, somewhat self-mockingly. Amber went on to tell me about how when she was at uni and she'd have a date, her friends would look after Gregory for her. They'd keep him out the pictures so her date didn't spot him when he came to pick her up. This really touched me, how kind and sensitive Amber's friends were and how they could just tell that she was a bit embarrassed and would just take Gregory away for a little while. Well, in an email from Amber a few days later, she showed me what really happened when her kind, responsible friends would look after Gregory. Oh, not quite the caring, responsible babysitters after all. So with some of the people I spoke to, it was more of their own personal story that came out, the more we spoke. With others, like Tom, our conversation gave me a chance to learn something about my own personal history. When I asked Tom what he would save from a fire, he answered almost instantly, showing me the signet ring that he was given for his 18th birthday. "It's made from family gold," he proudly said. Now, I have to admit that at this point, I'm preparing my "I promise I won't judge you if you tell me your family owns a gold mine" face. No, family gold, it's made from my great-grandparents' melted down wedding rings and an old coin that had been in the family for decades. Family gold, okay. Tom went on to show me the inscription on the inside of the ring, "Ne obliviscaris," meaning "do not forget," which apparently is the Campbell family motto. He must have been able to sense my bemusement at this whole family motto thing and quickly assured me that everyone has one. So I went home and excitedly researched my own family history. And yes, as it happens, there is indeed a Parker family motto. My Latin is terrible, but translated it means To the faithful there is reward. To the faithful there is reward. What responsibility being a Parker now carried. My short conversation with Tom had left me feeling ready to go into the world with a newfound sense of pride and integrity, which quickly disappeared when I read down to see that the Parker family, it was founded by a pretty long line of convicts. Some of the people I spoke to really proved my theory that there's way more to each and every one of us than meets the eye. For example, I would never have been able to guess that for one burly Brixton bouncer, the thing that means the most in the world to him is this tiny little red plastic chair. It's this little chair that him and his 4 brothers after would sit on and get covered from head to toe in mashed potato, that he's kept hold of for 30 years. I did ask him to send me a picture of him sitting on it, but he wasn't up for that. And likewise, I could never have guessed for the man in the buttoned-up shirt and the suit trousers, the thing he would be most gutted to lose in the world is a signed photograph of the Chuckle Brothers. I think that might just have to stay there, it's quite terrifying. So some of the rabbit holes that I was led down took me to whole new worlds of discovery, where I'd learn not only about other people's stories, but have a chance to learn a lot about myself and start wonderful new friendships that would go on to really influence the work I'm doing. For Ben, the thing that means the most in the world to him is this photograph of the African-American civil rights activist and lawyer Barbara Jordan. I'd never even heard of Barbara Jordan before Ben's email where he explained to me some of the very many amazing things that Barbara Jordan as a black, gay woman achieved in 1960s America. I was fascinated by this and went on to learn a lot more about her. But the thing about Ben's submission that really had an impact on me was the work of the artist behind the piece. It was Jeremiah Drake that Ben stumbled across one day 15 years ago when he was living in New York. Jeremiah was selling his art on the streets, and him and Ben spoke for ages. Ben went home with 2 pieces, one of them being this collage of Barbara Jordan, which he paid $5 for. Jeremiah wouldn't accept any more money for it. And when I thought about this, it struck me that for Jeremiah to have stuck in Ben's memory, even all these years later, there must have been something quite special about him. And as it happens, Jeremiah Drake is indeed a pretty special person. Some online research told me all about how Jeremiah likes to use his work to help improve the lives of people who have suffered. He explains how it's not rare in his community of Harlem to see people carrying the scars of a horrendous act of violence called the Buck 50. The Buck 50, caused by slashing, usually to the face, is so called because it normally takes at least 150 stitches to repair. Now, perhaps because of the violence that Jeremiah saw inflicted on his mother by his father when he was growing up, he felt compelled to do something about this. He created a series called Slashing the African American Icons and used this image of Billie Holiday with the staples down her face to persuade a Harlem doctor to start providing free facial reconstructive surgery to people who've fallen victim to this horrendous attack. This really struck a chord with me. I believe with a passion that where possible, creativity should be used to, quite simply, do good. I wanted more people to know about Jeremiah's work, so I wrote a blog post about him to be read by my 6 avid followers. So a month later, I'd just sent the Chronicles of Brixton off to print. Sitting at my kitchen table and feeling pretty overwhelmed. When I started the project, I was absolutely terrified of it. I was riddled with self-doubt and didn't believe for a second that A, I'd be able to get enough submissions to make this possible, and B, that if I did, there was no way that I had the talent needed to do these stories justice and to create something that people would actually want to look at. But sitting there and looking at the Chronicles of Brixton on my computer screen, I realised quite how wrong I'd been. Not only had I got enough submissions, but I'd had countless conversations that had filled me with a lot of joy. People had told me some really personal stories, and people that I'd never met before had instantly opened up and handed over a piece of their past. I think that takes a lot of trust, and reflecting on that left me full of an awful lot of love. So there I am, a month later, thinking about everything that's happened. I'm left full of this really, really unexpected energy. I thought that at this point I was just going to be absolutely exhausted, not buzzing, reflecting on how much love I felt throughout the whole process. Didn't know what to do with myself, and then this message appears in my inbox. Turns out that blog post I wrote, it had been read by one more than my usual 6 followers. Jeremiah Drake had stumbled across it and wanted to get in touch to tell me that, quite simply, he loved the Chronicles of Brixton. This started an hour-long exchange, each telling each other how much we loved the other's work and how happy we were to have this chance to be talking. And Jeremiah told me that no, of course he didn't mind that I'd used his art to create mine, which was quite lucky, seeing as his Barbara Jordan now sat slap bang in the middle of my pretty big piece of work. And reflecting on this connection that I'd made with Jeremiah made me see quite how powerful asking somebody what they would say from afire could be. The Chronicles of Brixton had become quite the adventure, and now I knew that it couldn't stop here. The Chronicles of Brixton is just the start. I want to find out what's important to people the world over. In fact, let's kick things off today. Don't worry about a photo for now, but I'd love to get a feel for what's important to you, the TEDx audience. So use the hashtag #SavedFromAfire to connect with me on Twitter and tell me a bit of your story. I'm going to create more archives documenting what's important to people all over the world. In fact, Jeremiah's already agreed to help make the Chronicles of Harlem the next one. So have a think about what's important to you and spread the word amongst everyone you know. And visit savedfromafire.com to connect with me. When Ben sent me that email about Barbara Jordan, he described her as genuinely inspirational. And when he said that, I don't think he could ever have realised quite what that statement would come to mean. When he sent me that picture of his $5 collage, Ben planted a seed of a story, his story, that would grow on to grow wonderful new friendships that started with one question. What one thing would you say from a fire? Thank you.